and we are talking about the Republican New Year's resolution. And joining us to tell us what that resolution is the founding co-director of Social Security Works, where I'm the executive director, Nancy Altman, who literally wrote the book on Social Security, is an expert on what the original vision of Social Security was, which included not just what we have today as Medicare, but a much larger program, a national healthcare system for everyone. And that has always been the direction that we should be moving in. But unfortunately, we're moving in the wrong direction with the Republicans right now trying to take the Medicare that we have away from people. So joining us to tell us about how they plan to do that is Nancy Altman. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I called it their New Year's resolution. You think that's what it is?
In fact, they started early on their New Year's resolution, 2 days after the Republican victory on November 8th. Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, said, we're going after Medicare. Now, he said it in language of we're going to save it and all of that sort of stuff, but it was clear from everything he's proposed over the years that he is out to destroy it.
Yes, and by the appointments that he's made, Tom Price, who was the chairman of the House Budget Committee, and who he put in front of in charge of the of OMB, both of these guys are just dead set on destroying Medicare. And that is what, Paul Ryan, I feel, sees his opening right now. Paul Ryan's goal, the reason he came to Washington, D.C., is to steal people's Medicare and give it to his criminal friends in the insurance industry and force millions of people into poverty. I don't totally understand why that's his drive, but it is.
Well, it's his drive, and it's not just Tom Price, it's not just Paul Ryan, it's Mike Pence, and it really is the Republican position. What's driving them, there are two things. One is it's ideology, that the private sector for everything, they want to privatize the military, they want to privatize prisons, they want to privatize everything. Because that's where you can make a profit. And that's the other point, that Medicare and Social Security are government run. They are run by civil servants who make civil servant salaries. There are no profits, no high CEO parachutes and so forth. So these are programs that work. They go against the ideology that the private sector is always the best, because Social Security is better than any private sector retirement arrangement, and Medicare is better than any private sector health insurance.
I have this theory that I think is now borne out by all of the evidence that the Republicans, actually, the modern Republican Party, has no ideology, that it is not actually driven by ideology. It's nihilism, loosely affiliated with, some, they pretend about an ideology, but it's really just a collection of paymasters, right? So they work to rob the American people and give the American people's money to their paymasters, and different segments of them work for different paymasters, but they rob the people, give the people's money to their criminal friends on Wall Street or in the insurance industry or in Big Pharma, and then Big Pharma gives them back some of that money as campaign contributions. But more importantly, at the end of their career, they get a 7-figure salary when they join these paymasters. So I think for the most part, you might have a few true believers who haven't gotten the memo yet that it's just a giant con being played on the American people. But for the most part, I believe that it is just wholesale looting that we are seeing, and that we are going to see accelerated because it flies in the face, right? I mean, like, they're willing to. Donald Trump is no conservative. He says things that are the antithesis of small government, but they're more than happy to hitch their star to him because they believe in power. power to steal the American people's things and give it to their paymasters.
Well, and I think that last word is exactly right, that what they're interested in is staying in office, keeping their jobs, and then getting big payouts when they decide to retire. So given how expensive campaigns are, and given that they are running on things the American people don't want, they need to, as you say, go to their paymasters, their donors, who are pulling their strings, and all they're interested in is keeping power. And that is a disaster for the American people, because they never run on destroying Social Security and Medicare. They run on saving it, and the American people don't know what to believe. And the problem will be that if they succeed, millions and millions and millions of Americans, in fact, all of us, will be much worse off.
I think something that we have to do here right now, Nancy, is really get into how it's literally every single American, right? Like, they're going to steal all of our Medicare.
Yes.
My Medicare, because I'm under 55, they're just going to steal. And then anyone who's over 55, their Medicare is destroyed as well, because you can't have the same program. Medicare doesn't exist if you take away all the younger people who would go into that system.
That's exactly right. That this is part of the Republican playbook. There is an article online that any listener can look for if they look up Social Security Leninist strategy. And what they say is, tell people age 55 and over they won't be hurt. And that because Republicans know that, number one, they are the ones who are most watching. Younger people are forming their families. They're worried about their student loans. They're worried about their jobs. They've got other focuses. So retirement and health insurance in old age is not on the front of their burner. So it's tell 55 and over they aren't going to be affected. Now, that's a huge insult to every senior, because it makes them sound like they don't care about anything but themselves, and that's just wrong. But on top of that, it's not even true. It's because, as you point out, that if you, especially with Medicare, if you say people 55 and younger are not going to be part of the risk pool, then what do you have? You have an aging, shrinking risk pool. Medicare now covers 55 million Americans. It will cover fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. And those people will be older and older and older, which means that they will have more and more expensive health care needs. And they will have less and less political clout, because when you've got all the seniors and those close to old age, the always voters, as you like to call them, and I think that's the right reference because they always vote, there's a lot of political clout, and they have to be very careful. But when you've got just a shrinking amount and shrinking number, and they're becoming more and more expensive, 5, 10, and everyone else is getting private health insurance with nothing else but maybe a small payment from the government, then there's going to be tremendous pressure to say, well, why are these people being so specially treated? And they're not going to be around for very long, and they'll just change it for them too.
And importantly, the whole political power of Medicare would go out the window. So, right, because it'd be destroyed. There's no future in the program. So why would any politician, what Ryan would create is a rump program, right? It would have no constituency. So no politician would care at all about people in that program or their complaints or anything about it, because they're all it's a small and shrinking number of people who don't have any power. They're going to be catering to their paymasters still. This is a total destruction of Medicare. A total destruction of Medicare is what Paul Ryan and Mick Mulvaney and Tom Price and Mitch McConnell, this is what they're sending to the desk of Donald Trump to sign. And let's talk a little bit about what Medicare is. Let's talk about the fact that or here, I'll just ask the question. You often hear, the way Paul Ryan talks about it is he's got to save Medicare because it's broken, it's in so much trouble, and he's got to save it. Is Medicare in trouble?
No, Medicare is a solution. Medicare is the best part of our crazy quilt health insurance system. The United States spends about at least double what other industrialized countries, every other industrialized country spends on their health care. These other countries are able to cover all of their citizens, and they are able to do it, so they do it at a fraction of the cost, and they have lower infant mortality, they have higher life expectancies. On any measure you want to look at, those other countries are doing better.